Okay, hello, welcome back. I hope you had a very good break and I hope you're ready to start learning again because we're ready to begin the next series in the intermediate language on SEDA College Online. We've got a very good lesson planned for today. I think it's something that is almost essential, something you will use every day. So I hope you are ready and prepared because we're going to begin. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about quantifiers and phrasal verbs for computers. These two things, I think, at the end you'll understand. You'll need them almost every day that you speak English. But before we talk about the grammar and the vocabulary, let's talk about some basic concepts. So one is the quantifier. What are quantifiers? This may be a word that you have seen before, maybe heard before. Maybe a teacher in one of your classes has said quantifier. So quantifiers are just words that help us measure the amount of something. That's all they are. They are adjectives, and they help tell you how much of a noun you have. You can measure no amount and zero, so nothing. You can measure small quantities, and you can measure large quantities. So these are the kind of things we're talking about. What adjectives are used in English to help measure? So as an example, something like, I have a lot of clothes, I need to donate. I think I have too many clothes, so I need to get rid of them. Or she has a few very good friends, so she has a small amount. That's all we're going to talk about are these adjectives here and how they work with nouns. But there's another concept we need for nouns. So one is the idea of countability. So there are two types of nouns. Some nouns represent ideas that can be counted, and some nouns represent ideas that can't be counted. So it depends on the noun itself and kind of the item that the noun represents. So countable nouns can be singular or plural. Grammatically, they have two forms. Uncountable nouns grammatically have one form. They're always singular. So as an example, something like restaurant. Well, that's singular. There is a good restaurant near my house. Or it can be plural. There are a lot of restaurants in Dublin. And so I know that this is a countable noun. I can have one, I can have two, I can have three restaurants. However, an uncountable noun is something like water. There is more water in the lake after the storm. This is singular, and it is uncountable. I cannot count one water or two water or waters. I don't know. It's not possible because you cannot make it into smaller pieces, or you cannot have one piece of it. So these are words that are uncountable. Things like sugar, flour, sand. These types of things are all uncountable because you cannot have just one piece, one part of it. So these two, this idea of countability is very important for quantifiers because we have different quantifiers depending on if it is a countable or an uncountable noun. So let's begin with the quantifiers. So what are some quantifiers for small quantities? Well, we have a couple options. So for small quantities, you can say little for uncountable nouns, and you can say few for countable nouns. So those are going to be the two for a small quantity, little or few, and it's different depending on if the noun is countable or uncountable. So, what are we talking about? What's the idea? What's a small quantity? Well, think about this, that you have some of them, but not a lot. So I have some snacks here that I'm going to use to kind of demonstrate these ideas. This is my my in-home snack. So, for example, I say I have a few peanuts. It's only a small amount. I can count them quickly. 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 peanuts. That's a few. Maybe a small pinch. And with these, you can also use the word very to mean even less. So we have a small quantity, a little, a few, and we can also have a very little or very few. as a way to mean even less. And so, if I said a few was this kind of pinch, a very few is something, even smaller, just one or two. All right, so another example. So I want a little ice cream as a snack. So I want maybe one small little scoop of ice cream. Or she has a few cakes remaining after the party. So, they had a party, they had little cakes, and there's maybe 3, 4, 5 that are remaining after the party. And here we can also see the uncountable and countable difference. So ice cream, you cannot measure ice cream. I cannot have ice creams. It's just an amount. I have, one serving of ice cream. So we use the uncountable little. However, cakes, very countable. I can have one cake, I can have 2 cakes, 3 cakes, 4 cakes. That one's easy to count. So we use a few. And you can see here that this is singular, just as the rule requires, and this one is singular or plural. All right, but that's the quantifier for a small amount. Let's look at quantifiers for a large amount. Oh, sorry. I also have one showing the next example for sugar. So we have very little sugar. We need to buy some. So very little is the idea that it's too little. There is a problem. All right. So now for large quantities. So which ones are our options? So there are more options for large quantities. We have a lot or lots of, and this is for uncountable or countable nouns. That's why I have it in parentheses, because you can use a lot of countable, a lot of uncountable. What's important is that it's usually in a positive sentence. In addition, we have much, and this one is for uncountable. And we have many. This one's for countable. The difference between a lot and much and many is that a lot is most often used in a positive sentence, whereas much and many are most often used in negative sentences. And then finally we have plenty of, and that's also usually in a positive sentence, and it can be countable or uncountable. So the amount, what is the idea for this? So the idea is more than sufficient. You have much more of this than you need, and so that's why we use a lot or many or plenty of. And in this example, you cannot use very for this. Sorry, that's my mistake. You cannot use very for these. But so the only difference is plenty of. So a lot and much and many means you have a lot more than you need, whereas plenty of means you have much, much more than you need. So my example, I will use my same snack. If I get a whole lot of them out of my bowl, well then, I have a lot of peanuts in my hand. This is a very large amount in my hand. And then I would say, in the whole bowl, I have plenty of peanuts and raisins. Plenty of peanuts and raisins. I don't need any more. So that's the idea. A lot is much more, and then plenty of is much, much more than you need. And again, just to be clear, you cannot use very. That's my mistake. You cannot use very. So some examples. Her grandparents have a lot of money now. They've saved all their life. So you can also say lots here. Her grandparents have lots of money now. There's no difference between these two. And so I used it with the uncountable noun money. So it has to be singular. But you can also say, her grandparents have a lot of cars. And then it could be countable. So that one doesn't matter. Or he doesn't watch much TV anymore. So here we have a negative sentence. So this is what I mean. He doesn't watch a lot of TV anymore is not as good. It's much more natural to say much or many when the verb is negative. If the verb is positive, then we go to a lot of. So that's really the difference. If your verb here has not, we'll use much or many. They don't have. many coffee shops in the area. So there we have the other one, coffee shops, countable, so we use many. Whereas TV is uncountable, so much. Or we have plenty of flour to bake a cake. So here we have a positive sentence, back to positive, and we have plenty of flour, much more than I need. I can make 1 cake, 2 cakes, 3 cakes. We have plenty of flour. All right, so that's for small amounts. Now we've talked about large amounts. So what do we do for no amounts? So let's say you have nothing. So you're measuring 0 now. We use a slightly different system. So for this, now we use no for positive sentences with countable or uncountable, doesn't matter. And on the opposite, if the verb is negative, we now use any. So remember always, English does not like negative verb, negative in the sentence. We don't like two negatives together. So we always reverse one. If the verb is positive, the noun can be negative. No. If the verb is negative, the noun must be positive, any. And so, as I said, this is for no amount at all. You have absolutely none. And also, when you're answering a question, you can also answer with the word none, and I'll show an example of that. This is kind of a quick tip or advice. So, instead of thinking about all the rules, if someone is asking you a question and you want to respond with 0, you can say none. So we have no eggs to cook for breakfast. So here, the verb is positive, have. So I can say no eggs here. We have no eggs to cook for breakfast. But what if I make the verb negative and say don't have? Well, then we change. We don't have any eggs to cook for breakfast. So that's what's important to do with negative verbs or negative zeros. You must have any if the verb is negative, or no if the verb is positive. So do be very careful with that. It is a mistake that if you do not think about this and you say, we don't have no eggs, it sounds very incorrect. So do be careful with this. We don't have any eggs, we have no eggs. Or, for example, someone asks, how many eggs do you want for breakfast? You can just quickly say, none. And then there, you've gone around all the rules, and you do not have to think. I don't want any eggs. You can skip everything and just say, oh, none. So that's a quick way to avoid the rules in English. But as I said, just be very careful with this. It's always the two forms, no or any. Okay. But so those are what we're talking about for small amounts, large amounts, and no amount. But what if you want to talk about, compared to what I think? I have more or less than I need. So that's what we're going to finally talk about with quantifiers, is for situations where you have more, less than, or the exact amount you need. So if you have more than you want, or less than you want, or the perfect amount, what do you do? Well, here we use the word to, really. That's what we add. We add to, and then the quantifier, much or many, and then the uncountable noun, or countable noun. And the rules still apply. Many for countable, much for uncountable. And so this is for if I have, more than I need. And this is if I have enough. And the same is true if you go the other way. So I can say too little or too few. So you can say positive, much, many, or you can say negative, little and few. And the same countable, uncountable noun rules apply. So what's important is this idea is based on your current desire, so your current need and your current want. It's not about the total amount you have, but what do I think I need, and what do I think I want in this situation? So, for example, we eat too much pasta. I want to buy different groceries. So here I have my uncountable noun pasta. So I add much, and then I think, for my opinion, We eat too much. I want to eat less pasta. So I say we eat too much. Or for example, there's too much noise. I can't sleep. So this is, again, your opinion. For me, personally, there's too much noise. I want less noise. Or this is how you can say just enough. So I have enough sugar to bake the cake. This is the idea that you have a sufficient amount. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's the right amount. It's enough. It will accomplish my goal. And we can make all of these the other way. We eat too little pasta. I want to buy more. I want to buy more pasta. So you can say too little. Or there's too little noise. It's so peaceful. I love it. So you can also use few and little, just like much or many. For this, you just add two. That's what we're doing. You add two. Okay. So additional notes. You can also say just enough to mean the exact amount. So if I say I have enough flour, that means I have enough. I can finish my task, I can accomplish my goal, I can bake the cake. But maybe I need, 200 grams of flour to bake. If I say I have just enough flour, I need 200 grams, and I have 200 grams. It's just enough, the perfect amount. And enough can also be used in a negative sentence with the idea of too little or too few. So I'll show an example of that in a moment. And before that, I want to talk a bit about grammar of enough. So just like we can use enough with nouns, you can use it with adjectives and adverbs. And the only difference is the order. So if you use enough with a noun, like I have enough flour, it comes before the noun. If you use it with an adjective or an adverb, like, like heavy or fast, then it'll go after the adjective. So here are some examples. So I had just enough food for the party. None left. So this is going to this idea, just enough. The perfect amount, no food left, everybody is happy. This house isn't big enough for us. We should move. So this is an example of a negative sentence. This house isn't big enough, and an adjective. So we have adjective big, so I use enough after the adjective. You could also say too small. This house is too small, or this house is too little. For us, we should move. But you can also say isn't big enough in a negative sentence. It's just another option. And so you can see here with an adverb, you aren't walking fast enough. Come on. So just know about enough. If you use it with a noun like food, we had just enough food. Enough is first. If you use it with an adjective or an adverb, it comes after the word. Those are the only notes. This is just some additional notes about enough. And yes, as a note for pronunciation, think of this like an F sound. Enough, enough. Okay, so let's do some practice with all of this. So here are all the quantifiers we talked about. We have a little, a few, a lot, lots of, many, much, plenty of, no, any, so zero amount, positive, negative. Two quantifiers, so talking about more or less than you need, too little, too few, too many, too much. And then enough to mean, sufficient. So I'm going to show you a sentence. Try to use which one of these can complete the sentence. And note, sometimes more than one is okay. It just changes the meaning, and so we'll talk about that. So number one, I only have to apply or reply to emails today. It won't take me long. I only have to apply to emails today. It won't take me long. What do we think? Which quantifier completes the idea here? And that's really what is important here, is many are okay for grammar, but I'm thinking meaning. Which one has the correct meaning? Okay, I hope you have your guess. Let's check. So this one, I say a few. I only have to reply or apply to a few emails today. It won't take me long. So here it's got I only, and so only is the clue here. Usually, if I think it's a small amount, I'll say the word only. I only have to apply to a few emails today, and the others don't fit. So we have a countable noun, plural. So I know it cannot be little because that's uncountable. So this is the only one for a small amount, and it is countable, so a few. All right, how about the next one? My bedroom is very large. There's room for a desk. My bedroom is very large. There's room for a desk. Okay. So our bedroom is very large, so not a small amount. We've got a large amount. So what do you think? Which one? All right, let's check. So here, many will fit. This one is a situation where grammar is okay for many. There's a lot of room for a desk, there's lots of room for a desk, or there's plenty of room for a desk. Those three, I think, are the best. Those are the most natural. I'm saying my bedroom is very large, so I think there is a big space. So I'm going to use a big quantifier, a lot, lots of, plenty of. But you can say enough. There's enough room for a desk. The grammar is okay here, and it works. There's enough room for a desk. I think the first three, though, these are better, more natural. Okay, so the next one. We don't have milk. I'll go to the shop. So what do we do here? We don't have milk. I'll go to the shop. So is it a lot, a little, none, just the right amount? What do you think? All right, let's check. We don't have any milk. I'll go to the shop. So if I'm going to the shop, I know I do not have, so I must say any. You could switch the sentence. We have no milk. I'll go to the shop. That's okay too, but because we have negative on the verb, don't have, I need any. All right. Number 4, there aren't parks in this town. There aren't parks in this town. All right, what do you think? We've got a negative idea. There aren't. So how does that's your clue here. It's a negative idea. All right, so let's see. There aren't many, or there aren't enough. Or you could say any. There aren't any parks in this town as well. So this is a situation. I like this situation because each answer changes the meaning. The grammar is okay for all three, but the meaning is somewhat different. So there aren't many parks in this town. If I say there aren't many parks in this town, I think, we have parks. Everybody is okay. But maybe there's only one, only two. I have to travel to the park, so we don't have many. I want more parks. There aren't many. If I say there aren't enough, this changes the meaning a lot. This means personally, I believe that the town, there's a problem. We do not have enough, meaning insufficient. So now I think we must build more parks because too many people cannot access a park. So there is a big difference between many or enough in this situation. And then, as I said, any also works. There aren't any parks in this town, and this just means 0. There are no parks. So this is a good example because it shows you do need to think, what is the meaning of the quantifier? Because the meaning of the quantifier changes a lot of the meaning of the sentence. All right, let's check the final one, number 5. There are blank cars in the city center. There are blank cars in the city center. Now, what do you think? All right, you have your guess? Okay, let's check. So there are too many, a lot, lots of, and I mean, maybe you think few, a few cars, that's possible. I think these are better. So this is a situation similar to number 4. All of these answers are correct, but it changes the meaning for each one. So if I say there are too many cars in the city center, I think we need fewer cars. There are too many. This is a problem. If I say there are a lot of cars, that's just, oh, interesting. There are more cars than I expected. It's not a problem. It's not good. It's not bad. There's just more. Or lots of, they're the same. Or if I say a few, that means, oh, there are a few cars here. Maybe only 2 or 3. I'm surprised. I thought more cars. So there is a big difference between saying too many or a lot. Because too many it is more than I want, more than I need. Whereas a lot is just only a lot. There's just a large amount. It is not good. It is not bad. Okay. I hope these 5 sentences could help show you a little bit of how the meaning of these quantifiers changes the feeling of the sentence and the idea in the sentence. Okay, so now, as I said, we're going to go on to some vocabulary, and I said phrasal verbs for computers. And so we're going to start with computers. So I have some pictures that I will show you, and then we'll talk about different words for the computers and the different parts of the computers. So I have a picture here, one of a laptop. And then I also have a picture here of a different style computer. This is called a desktop. So it is important. They are different. A laptop can move. You can pick it up and go elsewhere. A desktop, very, very difficult to move. You have many cords and wires. You have that big, big box. That is a desktop computer. Of course, both can be used on a desk. You can use a laptop on a desk, but we still say laptop because you can pick it up and go very, very quickly. So, what are the different parts of this computer? Well, first, we have the visual part, the thing that lets you see. This is called the monitor or the screen. You can say either. It's no different, monitor or screen. Maybe there are some computer, very technological people watching. More normally, this is a monitor. That is a special thing. The only purpose is to see. And then this is a screen because it is a movable technology, but really it's the same. All right, so next we have the part for sound. These are the speakers because they speak. Yeah, so we just took the verb speak, ER speaker, the things that make sound. Okay, next, what do we call the thing you type on? Well, this is called the keyboard. It's the same for both, whether it is a laptop or a special piece or on your phone. You do that. It's all the keyboard. And we say keyboard because this piece, each letter and each button is a key, singular. So each is a key. The whole thing is a keyboard. Okay, next. We have the pointer, the thing that you move around. This is called a mouse, just like the animal. I have no idea why. Absolutely no idea. Maybe there's probably a good reason. I don't know it. But we call it a mouse, and we use the plural too. So if you have 2 pointers, we have mice. So mouse, mice, the same as the animal. In addition, you have cords that you use to plug into the computer. Those are called USB cables. So this is plugged into a phone, but you can see it goes up to the wall, and that square plug for the USB is why we call it a USB cable. All right. And then you have the actual area on the computer, the thing that you plug into. Those are actually called ports because they give you access to the computer. So just like a port gives you access on a city to the ocean, you also do a port to a computer. So it's the same idea there, a door. Even many Latin languages use the word port for door. So same idea. All right. So in addition to that, we're going to talk about some phrasal verbs for computers. These are more interesting. So a phrasal verb, in case anyone is unclear, I'm sure many of you love them. It's probably your favorite thing about English. Some verbs must come together with a preposition. Without the preposition, they are not complete. And if you change the preposition, you change the verb. And so some phrasal verbs make pairs, where one has one meaning and the other has the opposite meaning. And we only change the preposition to show the difference. So what ones am I talking about for computers? Well, we have switch on and switch off, or turn on, turn off. They're synonyms. Switch on, switch off, turn off. No difference. And what does it mean? Well, it means to activate or deactivate an electronic device. So if you switch on a computer, you turn it on, you activate it, and then you turn it off, you close it and put it away. And then we have turn up and turn down. So turn up and turn down is for audio, volume, and this is to increase or decrease the volume of an electronic device, a speaker. You're just making it louder or softer by turning it up or turning it down. After that, we have plug in and unplug. So this one isn't a perfect pair. So plug in means to actually put the plug in, but we don't say plug out, we say unplug. So then we use a different prefix to remove the plug. And so what am I talking about? Well, you have a socket and a plug. So here, this part is the socket. This is the part in the wall for electricity. And then this is the actual plug. This is an American plug. And so you plug it into this wall, the socket, and so you unplug or plug in. And you can also use that for USB cords. You can plug a USB in and you can unplug a USB. Anything with that kind of socket plug motion, you can say that. Okay, well, that is everything for today. So we're just going to do a quick review. We talked a lot today about quantifiers and a bunch of them. We talked about many. We talked about a lot, a few, for small amounts. For large amounts, we talked about a lot of, lots of, for much and many as well. So this was positive, negative. And then we had countable, countable, uncountable. And then after that, we had plenty of, which is much, much more than you need. And then for zero situations, no, we talked about no and any. And then finally, we talked about more or less than you need with 2 plus the quantifier, or enough if you have a sufficient amount. I know, there's a lot of quantifiers today. So I do recommend downloading my PowerPoint slides so you can have my notes to help you remember all of these different quantifiers. And then we also talked about computer nouns and phrasal verbs for electronics. Okay, well, as I said, that's everything. So thank you so much for coming back with us today. I'm very happy to see many of you here day after day, so thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I hope I will see you again with the next intermediate lesson. All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.